Hello and welcome everybody to the Evolve podcast, the live guest podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Petty. I'm an illness and trauma guide, a spiritual alchemist, and author of the Connect with the Divine You book and journals. And I'm super excited for today's live podcast. Thank you everybody for your patience. I had COVID last week, so we needed to reschedule. But here we are with Joy Taylor. And we're going to be diving into the very important topic, I think, especially for this coming year, of intimacy and authenticity, a women's way of finding and growing in a healthy romantic relationship. So for those of you that are new to Joy, a little bit about her. She's an authentic leadership mentor and companion guide in awakening. She is passionate about empowering people to contribute to a better world through spiritual embodiment and inspired action. Author of Amazon #1 best-selling book, Inspired, facilitator of a Women's Way of Awakening retreats, and soul somatic integration practitioner. Joy brings over 30 years of training and hands-on experience in fascia release, muscle therapy, and yoga instruction. As a successful entrepreneur, business and leadership trainer, intuitive business advisor, and past director of the Women's Business Center in Northern California, Joy guides conscious professionals and visionary women. She's an advocate of healthy, intimate relationships. And with her husband, Gavin, they weave human psychology, spirituality, and the intuitive tantric arts into practical applications to support and encourage soulful love. Yay, Joy, thank you so much for being here. And we're just saying, third time.
Third time. I'm kind of the all-in-one gal, right? Because it's nice to be with you again, though, Tanya. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here with everyone.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to everyone who's live here today. We know that it's a busy time of year. And it's, just great to see everybody in person. And thank you again for your patience with the reschedule today. And Joy, we've got a lot to discuss today. This is this is a hot topic. This is romance, right? And partnership and intimacy and authenticity. And I would love, I think, to start with the thing that happens. I'm not going to say just for women. I know it happens for men too. But when we get into a romantic relationship, oftentimes what happens is we tend to lose ourselves. And it may not happen right away, but it seems to happen over time. And I would love for us to start with that. So why do we do it? And how do we stop doing that so that we can, remain our sovereign self and have that, interdependent, I think, is the word, relationship versus that codependent. Yeah.
Yeah. And you really brought up another good word, sovereignty. So sovereignty is like self-governance. It's to thine own self be true. It's being able to find wisdom and insight from our inner selves. And establishing that is primary. We cannot have a loving, romantic, conscious relationship until we have really rooted in that within ourselves. And that doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out before you can be in relationship, because we learn how to do this in relationship. I'm learning how not to lose myself in a year and a half with Gavin, and I want to speak from experience because, that's where we all grow. So I tend to be pretty vulnerable and transparent, thus intimacy and authenticity. But I have, and the reason this is important to me is I have lost myself. I have really, abandoned my core of who I am and what I need and what I want. And with that, some of my self-esteem, I've done that in the past.
Yeah.
So much so that when I ended my last relationship and gave myself some space, which is really wonderful and important if you happen to be single, enjoy it. There's so many benefits to being single. And if you're in relationship, but wavering around it, also giving self space, right? To like, really, who am I? And to thine own self be true. What are my needs? What are my desires? How can I cultivate a deeper relationship with myself? How can I know myself? How can I know what I like? And so when I met Gavin, and I was and am blessed to be with a very conscious man. He's also a fellow traveler. He's a soul-oriented being, you know. But when I met him, I said, you know, I've lost myself in relationship, and I can't do that this time. I also had a counselor and friends that I reached out to, and I said, don't let me do that again, where I acquiesce, where I just become him, where I don't have enough time alone, you know. So I knew this was a weak spot for me. And so I shared it with Gavin. And so our entire courtship and into now marriage has been a checking in. Am I being true to me in this? Am I making choices that serve both of us? But primarily, how's it feeling for me? And I have to say the cool thing, because this was a major commitment, I'm finding myself in this relationship. I'm finding myself. So, wow, there's a potential too. You know, we hear a lot about losing yourself in relationship. What if the orientation just shifted? That I don't, you know, because on the other side of fear is the desire. So if the fear is I'm afraid to lose myself, the desire is I want to find myself in relationship and go there. So that's what I continue to do my best to be in that.
Well, and I love that you're adding in, right, the piece of finding yourself as well in a relationship. Because yes, we can lose ourselves, right? And I think what you said first, just back up a little bit, that when we're in that period before, for those of us that, you know, when we're single and we get to find deeper layers, parts of ourselves, of course, then we get into a relationship. And that's the part that I think is really important that you brought in, that if we're with a partner that adds to us, that there can be this beautiful, oh, I didn't even realize this about myself in a good way. I didn't even know I liked this. I didn't even, because on your own, you probably wouldn't have found that, right? But here comes this person with maybe some of these interests that you didn't even know that you would have liked. And here they are lighting that up for you, lighting it
I
up for you.
love that. I love that perspective too. Yeah, like what would life be like, whether single or with someone, if we reframed it and said that relationships are where I find myself instead of where I lose myself? What if that became the mindset? Relationships are where I find and reclaim myself. So they're a pathway to awakening. And then what you're speaking to, Gavin and I were just talking about it this morning, like in a healthy way, we influence each other.
Yeah.
My first husband, he loved to ski. And I had skied in the past. It wasn't a passion, but I went skiing with him and I liked it. It was fun and it brought out the inner athlete. And I remember saying, I'm going to just take it on. And I learned to love to ski. You know, it became a way that we connected with each other. And then with Gavin, he influences me in so many ways, mostly in the realm of consciousness and empathy. He's got such an empathic nature that it just rubs off on me, which is already in me. My spiritual teacher, who is a Jewish rabbi, actually, my core teacher, he used to say that the E note, when you play the E note on a guitar, he was also a musician, the other E note resonates. Mm-hmm. And so we use the word, oh, do you resonate with that a lot? But like literally, there are parts of Gavin that resonate with something inside of me that has a potential that hasn't been nourished yet. And so he just helps me remember who I am. And it's not just our intimate relationships. It's so true with everyone, our coaches, our mentors, our colleagues, our best friends. Yeah.
Well, everything is, I mean, when we come down to it, everything is about relationship.
I know. I just heard that on your podcast.
Relationship.
Relationship with the higher realms and relationship with other human beings. Yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
Yeah, self. Yeah, self, people on the planet, and then our unseen divine team. And that's how we learn most about ourselves. And it's also the most challenging, probably one of the most challenging things in our life. But yes.
Yeah. And what I want to just, this whole relationship with self is we all have so many parts of ourselves. And I see this so much with my clients. There's like, I do mentorship with people who are wanting to be in relationship or are. And I also work with a lot of individuals who are soul inspired entrepreneurs. So I'm going to use the example of the entrepreneur, but it relates. It's the same. Oh, I really want to do this. Oh, I don't want to. I'm afraid. So in a relationship, oh, I really want a healthy romantic relationship. Oh, I don't. Are you kidding? Last time I did it, I got hurt. Those are both inside of us. So opening up the dialogue between the two, letting them both have a voice, hearing what they need, maybe coming to some sort of, maybe bringing in even a higher consciousness to support this internal dialogue that we're living, we are living. So that relationship with all of us and how compassionate can we be with ourselves? Yeah, that's talk about primary.
Compassion, right? If that's the one thing that we, I would say, focused on in 2025, right? And of course beyond that. But I think that, and we're going to move into the core ingredients of a healthy, intimate relationship. That was going to be my next question.
Okay.
And here we are talking about compassion and having that compassion, first of all, like you're saying, for all of our parts, right? We have all of these parts of us. We've got these parts that are like, yes, bring it on. And then we've got the parts that are really afraid. And I've been there too. Right. We all have had relationships that have gone south. And to be able to talk about it is what I'm hearing you say with your partner is one of those pieces that I think when we go into a relationship, what we normally try to do is put on our best self, our strong self, and what if part of being that healthy, intimate relationship is actually to show up and actually talk about those things that we're most afraid of first, right? And I don't know if you did that, but at this relationship I'm in now is the one finally where I did that.
Well, and I know also there's couples that have been together years that have the courage to start now.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So it can be a 10-year marriage, a 2-year relationship. It can be whatever it is, but the time is now, because we're moving into such a transparent time on the universe, and withholding it, in my experience, withholding isn't what creates the intimacy. And what we are most wanting to do is say, hey, I've got an insecurity showing up, and I just need to let you know about it. Right. And doesn't mean I'm believing it either, but I can feel it. Can you help me? Can you keep an eye? Whatever might be necessary. But that's a practice Gavin and I have really adopted, and it's been great. It's been really, really, really powerful. And congratulations, Tanya. I love that you're doing that in this relationship. 4 years for you, right?
Yeah, almost 4 years. And it's interesting, right? These relationship wounds that we carry, they take time to heal, right? They take time to heal. And like you said earlier, and we'll just weave it in again, oftentimes the healing, yes, we can do a certain amount of healing outside of the between relationships, which I did a ton of that. But then when you get in it, that is where the deeper healing, I feel, often occurs as well.
Well, and you know what's cool about what you just said, like I don't know how everyone relates to this, but I keep counsel with myself. I definitely seek out mentorship, coaches, healers, different friends that I can share with. There's also this sacred temple that's available in any moment. It doesn't even need to be on the physical, it can be in nature, it can be in the car. I can't tell you how many times I've just gotten in the car throughout my life, right? Especially in relationship, and create sacred counsel with self, my guidance, my more soulful essence, my wisdom, and let that wisdom bring compassion to whoever's triggered and whatever patterns are there. But that's a skill that can be developed whether in or out of a relationship. It just needs to be a priority that we have me time. I remember John Gray talks about in one of his recent books, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It's one of his more recent books, but it's like me time, you time, we time.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be able to communicate that and to be able to say, hey, I'm ready for some me time, or how important it is for me to like have time with just friends, girlfriends, especially like just going out and being, renewed in that. Then I'm coming more full into my relationship. Do you experience that as well?
I'm so glad that you brought up me time. Yeah, me time, we time. Yes. I used to have a huge fear. So one of my biggest relationship wounds, I'm like you, I'm very vulnerable. I had a lot of cheating in my past. Dad was a cheater. I think the first 7 guys I was with cheated on me. Yeah, I had a huge, huge wound to work through with all of that and belief system around that. And this relationship, was very, very upfront with this one, and, told him right off the bat, like, I'm still working through this wound. And, it takes me a lot to be able to trust somebody, like a lot. Right. And so one of the things that I would do in the past, because I was afraid of somebody cheating on me, is I didn't want to be away from them. I didn't want, I needed, I'm an introvert, believe it or not. I need alone time. But as soon as I would get in a relationship, I would totally throw it out the window because of my fear that if they weren't with me every second, that they were going to be cheating on me. So I've really gotten to work on that one in this relationship. And I'm doing a great job, And, it's still, does it pop up sometimes? Like, I know he's going to be going to a conference, a golf conference. That's his thing. And I'm not going for the first time. And I'm doing that on purpose. Even though he invited me to go, I'm not going to go so I can practice after 4 years, practice not being together for how many days. I'm usually the one that leaves, right? I'm usually the one that leaves. And when I leave, it's okay. But when I'm the one that's left at home, that's a little bit different. So yes, I am getting to work on me time, and I'll let you know how it goes. That's going to be at the end of January.
Oh, wow. I love that you shared that. That's so brave.
Yeah.
I mean, with the past, with that kind of a past and, what you've been able to evolve out of a really old historic story. And it sounds like it's like,
oh, it's ancestral. It's like, it's so ancestral. Like, and we have to remember that you, everybody, right? Like a lot of these relationship wounds, they're from passed on by our ancestors, and they're also past life stuff, right? I'm pretty sure we had a past life together and something went down with that. So here we get to do it different in this lifetime and heal it on a deeper level. So I think that's the beautiful thing that we're also getting to do in this dance of relationship, Joy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And awareness is the key. So just becoming aware, but not getting locked into it. That's something to be very, very mindful of in my own experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. So we've got alone time, we've got compassion. What else? What are some of the other ingredients for you to having a healthy romantic relationship?
Well, Gavin and I actually asked ourselves, like, are we, because we do have a it's a pretty easy relationship. And it's like, are we just lucky? Like, what is this, and how can other people have this? And so we developed what we believe are the core ingredients. And the first one, and really the primary one, is devotion to love.
Hmm.
And that starts with loving self and being able to love another. And this is the kind of love that's unconditional. So if I can love myself when I trip or falter, then I know I can love another when he trips and falters, so to speak, whatever a trip is. He's learning, he's growing. And so that's the compassion piece you spoke of. And then the other is dedication to truth. So the way I've been taught, the wings of the heart are love and truth. And so
Hmm.
truth is like it's in the Kabbalah, by the way. It's the integrity. It's called Gevura.
Hmm.
And it's like truth telling. So to thine own self, we talked about it already, but to be so dedicated, to be honest, to be able to be truthful with myself, like, oh man, I'm doing this out of obligation again. Ding, ding, ding. I don't want to keep that pattern alive. I'm going to stop. Whether it's with a friend or your beloved or what, it's like to be truthful to self, to follow the truth, and then to be able to be truthful with another. So those are the two first core ingredients. The third one is psychological maturity.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
if you're not taking responsibility for yourself, I mean, in a nutshell, it's spiritual, emotional, psychological maturity. And that's on us. Each and every one of us, no matter in or out of a relationship, are we tending to our own growth, our own understanding? Everything we've been talking about is and the way that you do your podcast, Tanya, I just love that about you. I already mentioned that once, but the spiritual psychological blending, right? Psychological maturity. And then something that I think is really undervalued in a lot of the relationship experts of the world is they're not talking about physical vitality. And to be in an intimate long-term relationship, it's you want to have a body that's healthy, to be able to share it, to be able to run energy, to have exchange with another, to just be healthy. Because when we get in relationship, we are there for each other. So I sure don't want to be a burden as I age on Gavin, nor does he on me. We're doing our very best to take care of our bodies so that we can enjoy our bodies with each other while we have them, our earth suits. And then the last core ingredient. So all of that is just, those are really solid. And those are things we can all work on ourselves. But the final core ingredient is compatibility,
Hmm.
which is
Let's,
like,
yes, let's, I mean,
duh.
I want to pick each of these apart, but let's start with the compatibility. I'm so glad that you brought that up. In my mind, I kept hearing, I use the word alignment. Um, yes, so same. And I was just having a conversation with a client earlier today, and we were talking about she's known for some time that her and her husband are not compatible, and it's important that we, how do I want to say this? We don't make, it's not that anybody's bad, right? It's not that
Mhm.
she's bad, he's bad. But what happens is we tend to get together and because we're trying to be what we think that other person wants us to be, there's this maybe false sense of compatibility, right? If we're not being, and we're going to go back to truth, I think these are all connected joy, of course. But we often show up and we're not showing who we really are. So then how can we know if we're compatible? Right? How can we know that we're in alignment or compatible if we're pretending to be something we're not or someone we're not?
Yeah, I have a program, I offer it twice a year. It's called Awakening Heart, and it's for singles who are stepping into or wanting to or praying or intending to attract true love. And then we have a singles retreat. But here's how we divide the compatibility, and this is where it's really important to get clear. And so it's great if you're single. Now, if you're in relationship, this is a fun activity, or maybe not, but it's an honest activity to do with a partner. So the first compatibility is friendship. I'll break them down. The second is spiritual ally. The third is lover. And the fourth is life partner, like domestic vision, etc.
Mm.
So, friend, do you share the same activities? And from 1 to 10, if you're in a relationship, do you feel like you're with someone who you would call a friend, and you like to talk, you like to hang out together, you like to do things together? I'm hoping you have a 7 or above. If you're single, well, what do you value in a friend? What do you love doing? Do you want a partner that enjoys yoga, working out at the gym, going bowling? What is that? So that's the first one. And then the second, the spiritual ally, more, it can be around a religion or a philosophy, but even deeper than that, is there just a soul to soul connection where we're gonna support each other in coming into remembering our true essence, our consciousness, our connection to the divine? Do we have a similar ways in which we see spirit or feel spirit or exchange spirit? And then the lover, what? So I personally really enjoy the erotic blueprint as a framework. If people haven't gone to Jaya, just Google erotic blueprint. You can find out if you're kinky or sensual or energetic or sexual or a shape shifter. But, is there chemistry? I mean, most of us are monogamous. So like, is this the person you want to be a lover with? How's that feel? Well, how compatible are you? Even like, how frequently do you want to make love? Like, this is key stuff. This matters.
I don't, and I think it's changing. And I'm so glad you're bringing this up. But, when I started getting into, intimate relationships in my teens, this wasn't, you didn't talk about that stuff. Like I wasn't taught that you would talk about those sorts of things, right? That was almost like bad, right? That you would talk about sex. And thank God, it has shifted a lot since then. But yeah, I think that's a really important piece that a lot of people maybe have been embarrassed in the past talking about. But yeah, what do you like? How many times a week? What type? Like, all of those things when it comes to making love, I think is really important. My grandma, believe it or not, said to me, bless her heart, she's gone. But she said, do not marry a man until you sleep with him. And I was like, Grandma, yes, very good point. Very good point. It made me, yeah, laugh. My family was like,
I love that, especially
yes,
generation.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I think she'd be like 103 if she was alive right now. So yes, very smart woman.
And by the way, if someone is in relationship and this isn't the most, or it has become strained or not compatible, truth is an aphrodisiac, and there's lots of resources to start exploring how you like to be touched and asking for that and shifting it. So just if it's not working, there's plenty of room for repair. And yeah, so yeah, it's that compatibility, especially if this is your lover, it's really nice to have that, really be because it is a source of longevity and renewal and inspiration. And
And
it is
creativity, right? And
and
creativity.
intimacy. Like, talk about vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, if whoever you're touching and affectionate with, and or having sexual exchange and sexual energy with, that's going to bring up so many emotions, and that's going to also bring up so much movement, and it's just going to require that out of control space at
Yeah.
its best. I mean, isn't that what we're all looking for, right? It's like, oh,
Well,
I can't
yes and
control this.
no.
Right.
Right? We've
But
got the part that wants, right? The part that wants that, and then the part that, yeah. And I just feel, if it's okay, Joy, I just feel it's really, I'm feeling guided to say something about many of you who've been with me a while know that I have a lot of sexual trauma as well in my past. And so what we're talking about right now is, yeah, it's taken me a long time to get
mhm,
here. And I thought until this relationship that I would never have a healthy sexual life. Like, I really believed that because of the amount of sexual trauma that I've had. Um, and no matter where you are, and I know a lot of people have sexual trauma, that it is possible to heal it. Because I'm finally,
true.
right? I just want to say that, like, I really thought I was hopeless. I didn't think I would ever enjoy intercourse ever. And I'm at the point where, like, I want it. I used to be like, let's just get it over with, right? Like, I just got to do it because, if I want a partner, I'm just going to have to do it and put up with it. Even to the point where I would have to get blackout drunk. Like, yeah, it was pretty bad. And so I'm at the point now where I actually look forward to it and
Wow.
don't want to just get it over with. So I just want to put that out there for anybody who has like anything like that they're thinking or dealing with. Um, I just felt like I needed to say that. Yeah.
I am so glad you said that. And thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And what's coming up for me, and I'm just, once again, you're so brave. Um, yeah, so that sexual compatibility might be just like someone who's really open to going slow and creating safety, which would tie into the psychological. And for me, sexuality and spirituality are pretty linked, because I feel like that central channel and the ability to wake up more of the energy centers through sexual exchange with self or another, right? That's a powerful technology that's built into being human. So, well, beautiful. I'm just like, wow, once again, thank you. Thank you. Because I do feel like there's a lot of that, So how can we feel safe? How can we feel safe with ourselves? How can we have conversations around sexuality? I'll move on to the fourth one, if that's okay, which is the life partner thing, which, there's no right way to do it. I know people who I have some good friends. They each have, like, one has a dome and one has a cabin on a shared piece of land. That's their ideal lifestyle. Very separate, but together. Or people have different homes and they don't want to live together at all. And that works too, if you're with someone else who wants that. Or a more traditional, we live together, we sleep together in the same bed every night, or, but what are your habits and preferences and flows and routines and just natural ways of being around going to bed, what you eat, your visions, the life partner? It's like financial. How do you want to share money, or do you?
I'm glad you brought that up. I think,
Well,
again, a lot of these
yeah,
things people don't
sex
talk
and
about.
money.
That's the two biggest things that people fight about,
Right.
right? Is
That's
sex and
right.
money, sex and money. And two of the biggest taboo subjects that a lot of people don't want to talk about, until they get deeper in a relationship. It's like, no, that has to be talked about up front to see if we're compatible, right? To
Yeah.
see if we're compatible.
And weaved in with, because your audience and, both of us are like very much living soul. orientations towards our incarnation on earth, weaving that into the spiritual. I mean, we're talking about energy. Sexuality is energy moving through the body, and money is energy moving through our relationships. So how compatible are we around money? How compatible are we around keeping the house clean or messy? And shared vision is a part of what Gavin and I consider that part of compatibility, the life partner. Do we want to go the same place?
Right.
And you know, a lot of people who are listening know my story, but I was with a man who wanted to travel and be semi-retired, and I wanted to give my gifts to the world. So I'm really love the work that I do, and the creativity is my path of awakening. So that wasn't compatible. And I wanted to buy a house and he didn't. So compatibility matters. Did I love that man? I did. This is before Gavin, and I loved him so much I stayed 8 years. But inevitably it was more of a just rubbing against each other and not a softening. And so when, you know, when I look at people who are in relationship or thinking about dating, those first compatibilities, love, truth, psychological maturity, and a healthy body, those, it's always imperative. But now let's like look at how compatible are you? Because you can't try to make a relationship work. You might be a great person and they're a great person, but you're not for each other. It was a season to help you clarify what you want.
And I'm glad that you said that. When I just want to share a little bit of a story. Like after I'd been, maybe some of you can relate to this. I had never been someone who dated. I would just get in a relationship. And this started when I was 15, pretty much, even before then, probably 12, actually. I would always just like get in, right? So there was never any like, oh, is this person actually like a good fit for me? It was just like, boom, I was in it. And after I got my last relationship of 7 years, and I was like, okay, don't want to do this again. And, you know, need to look at some of my stuff, which, you know, we all do that, or I think it's good if we do that. And then I decided when I was going to start dating that I was actually going to date. I had never dated. And so I had my list, Joy, of, you know, everything you're talking about, my list of qualities, my list of, you know, all of the stuff. And I went on about 30 first dates. I'm not kidding. And I would go with my list and I would be I would start asking the questions, right? I'd be like, this is what I like. Is this what you like? Like all the different categories. And I think only about 5 got to a second date. But I'm telling you, it was so amazing at the age of, what am I now? Oh my God, I'm going to be 50. So that was what, 4 years ago that I was doing that I was doing that finally for the first time in my life. Like going, like asking myself the questions and then sharing that with somebody else and asking them the questions. And it was a game changer. That is why I'm in this right now that I'm in, which is a relationship I never thought was possible.
I love that. You know, relationship is one of the most important choices we make. It's just so key to our well-being and our life. And you're right. A lot of people jump in without really clarifying what's going to work and what they want. Yes. And then I'm always encouraging people, and it was my practice to tune into, how do I want to feel in this relationship? In it or not in it, this is the guiding principle. I want to feel free. I want to feel like I'm finding myself. I want to feel like I can relax and breathe. I mean, that was really important to me because I can be a pleaser or an over responsible, right? I was, you know, my past, we all have our paths, but was just so dictated by the opinions of my mom and my dad and my sister, and they all wanted me to be something different. So the chameleon got trained.
Oh, yeah.
Who does this person want me to be? Okay, I'll change. I'll be them. I'll be what they want me to be. So for me, how I wanted to feel was relaxed, free, me, free to be me. That was really, and that's what I found with Gavin, because he actually wasn't everything that I put on my so-called list of who I was looking for, but I knew how I wanted to feel. So how does that play out? If you're in
Yes.
a relationship, dedication to feeling that, devotion to feeling that, cultivating that feeling. How can I now feel that? How can I feel that? Where can I find that? If it's not in this relationship, is it with myself? Is it with a book? Is it with being a part of these kinds of groups? Is it with different friends? How can I get into the energy of what I want to feel? And then can I bring it back to my relationship? That's actually a big part of not losing ourselves, because it's how do we feel? It's a feeling, ultimately. It's not a mental construct.
Yeah, I love that. I love the feeling piece because I think, again, a lot of us have shut down, right? We've been taught to shut down the way we feel. It's part of our guidance system, but we've been taught to shut it down for lots of different reasons. And I'm laughing because I'm thinking about when I got into this now relationship, that I said to my spiritual mentor at the time, I don't know if this is going to work, because my ego had certain concerns about but some of the stuff. And he just kept saying to me, but how do you feel?
Oh, good.
Like if you get outside of some of these things that your ego is judging about him, I'll just give you one. He loves to play video games. I hate video games. And he's like, it's okay. He doesn't like, does he ignore you? And I'm like, no, he plays like an hour a day when I'm still working, because he gets off, because he starts work so early. He gets off early. He's like, that's fine. He's blowing off steam. That's what he does. And I was like, oh, all right. He's like, no, if he was ignoring you all night long to play video games, that would be different. So anyways, yes. How do you feel? And I was like, I feel loved. I feel important. I feel like he listens. I feel like he wants to spend time with me. Video games aside, like,
Yay that you had that guidance, and yay that we're talking about this.
yeah, no, I think it's really, I mean, that's a huge one. We've got to really tune in, and how do we feel after we spend time with the person, right? And this goes not just for our partner, but friends, right? It
Yeah.
goes for anybody.
And you know what else it goes for? For those people who are, well, for all of us, our work.
Yes.
And in entrepreneurship is like, am I feeling happy in this new creation I'm creating, or am I feeling pressured or stuck, or like, how do I feel about what I'm creating in my life and how I'm relating to the world?
Mm,
The energy from which we create is more, in my experience, it appears to be more essential than what we create.
mm.
So
I love that. I love that you're weaving that in because, you know, what we do, and again, this can go back to compatibility, that, I've been with a lot of people, previous partners who didn't really like what they did for their work. And so to be with somebody, like, I think that's another important piece to look at, right? Do you love what you're doing, and do they love what they're doing, or at least like it, right? Maybe love is a strong word for some, but do they on a day-to-day basis, do they like getting up and what they do every day? Because that hugely impacts the relationship.
you
Hugely.
cannot, absolutely, big yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
so all we can do is love what we do and course correct and find our way so that we're more and more. I just love that phrase, do what you love, also love what you do. And sometimes the way there is to find gratitude with the parts that you love about what you're doing. And the more that gets highlighted, the more new opportunities show up that shift into doing what we love. So
Yes.
love what you do to do what you love. That's a great path.
Love it. Love it. Love that play on words. So I wanted to open up everyone. I know that we've had lovely, lovely wisdom coming through, but I always like to leave some time towards the end if anybody has any questions. And so if you want to raise your hand, what did Zoom do now? I think it's reactions. They're always changing things, but I think there's actually a raise hand. So we can do it that way, or if somebody wants to put a question in the chat, I just wanted to make sure we had some time. A question, or if you just want to comment on anything we've talked about or anything that really resonated for you. I know Joy and I would love to just hear from a person or two if anybody has anything. Kelly, I'm going to go ahead and let's see, can I pin 3 people? I'm going to try. Yes, we can. Okay, and I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for being brave and raising your hand. What would you like
Sure.
what would you like to ask or share, Kelly?
So I am fortunate enough to be in Joy's program. And I am a single person starting to date for the first time after 15 plus years. A traumatic relationship before that. And something that I'm encountering is, I meet these men that aren't willing to open up right away. Do you find that that's just a huge red flag as far as, because I would ideally like someone that's open and willing to share their story, their history. And I don't know if it's the proper thing that people are waiting, on the first couple dates, or if it's just a big red flag that this person cannot be intimate.
Joy, why don't you go ahead?
I love that question, Kelly. Thank you.
I do too. Yeah.
It's interesting because it might sometimes take time. It sometimes does take a little bit more time for men to feel safe. Like in general, if you even look at and you were part of the class last time, right? Like men sit side to side and they face out together and go for the hunt. They tend to sit side to side, and that's what they're designed to do. Women face each other. We're so used to intimacy. We play patty cake. I mean, and so a lot of men haven't evolved their ability to open. And I would love for more men to evolve. I'm going to ask you to trust your body on it. Like if there's enough there where there's little openings that you're still feeling good in your body with the man, that give them a little bit more time, even requests. So here's what women don't do. They don't ask for what they want. And I don't know. It doesn't have to be, it could scare them off. I've been there where it scares them off. But maybe the second or third time you're feeling kind of good in the body. There's some potential here. There's a connection, enough there that it might be nice to ask. I'd really love to go out again. Yes, if he asks you or you ask him, I have an idea. Can we play a game? This is what I did with Gavin, but he was already pretty open. So I was lucky that way. Blessed. But I said, can we have, this was our second in-person live date. The first one was Zoom and it was just casual talking, 2 hours. And the second one, I said, can we meet on the phone and let's each bring questions. Let's play the game, ask me anything. But whatever the question is, we both answer it. And he was willing to play the game. And so we each brought questions, and it was a way to really open up. Like you were talking about, Tanya, like you were asking these guys, do you like this? Do you do this? But in an invitational way. So I don't think it's a red flag unless your body's like after 1 or 2 or 3. I mean, give yourself a little bit time. I think a lot of times women like bypass these really cool guys. They might not go to yoga or be interested in spirituality, but life has taught them how to be soft, how to be compassionate. Life has taught them how to be solid and stable and relatively responsible and mature. And so there's a lot of beautiful men out there that get bypassed, but part of it is on women who aren't asking for what they want. And then when he does something you love that is a moment of connection, call it out. So look for the moment when there is a little bit of a connection, say, "Ooh, that felt good. I love that you said that to me," or "I love that you opened up that way," or "I love it when you share like that." It's like, let him know when you like it. So those are a couple thoughts that come to me, Kelly.
Yeah, no, I just want to add, Joy, I love all that you shared. And I'm, again, just like laughing. My guy was not very conscious when we came together. And yeah, he had a history of actually being in abusive women relationships. And so, when I came in asking questions, he had at least shared that with me, right? I think that was one of our first question games. So I love that, Joy. And I don't know about you, Kelly, but I found like I could, at first at least, that we could have deeper conversations on the phone versus face to face. And not so much for me, but for him, that was easier. I think he felt not like it felt safer for him to be able to talk about that deeper stuff on the phone versus face to face. And quite honestly, he can still have trouble looking at me when we're talking about something that might be a little bit challenging because of his past relationship trauma, right? Having a very verbally and physically abusive partner. So just something that maybe, I don't know where you're at in your dating with this person, but maybe the phone for some deeper questions might be a good idea. Maybe that person will feel safer, because I think, we don't realize men, they've been conditioned to not be vulnerable as much as we have, maybe even more, and that it's weak, right?
This is interesting because I'm also like this side by side. It could be the phone. It could be just sitting on a park bench, but you're both looking at the same view.
Yeah.
It could be on a drive. So there's a couple different ways that it might be more comfortable without all the eye contact, right? And then for men, one way they really open up, and because they've been trained, is sexuality and affection, so that's a way to soften everything. Men feel really, really good when we're soft and when we receive their appreciation and their love. And so that openness and that channel being open can just help a man feel more safe in sharing.
Yeah, beautiful.
Love that question.
Such a good question. Such a good question. Was that helpful, Kelly? I asked you to unmute.
Yes, it is. And I like just listening to my body. I mean, it's a whole new world of trusting my instincts and learning to trust another person and being present and being in my feminine. I really like that idea of acknowledging and complimenting the man when they do share something, and not to be patronizing. But I think that recognition, that's something that Joy has talked about before. I think that can make a man feel really good, or really anybody who is being vulnerable, and to recognize that. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all, that's something new that we can all practice on a deeper level this year is praising vulnerability, right? Like, thank you so much for sharing that. That must have been hard, maybe hard for you to share that, right? Like, because it takes courage to be real. It takes courage to show up and share our wounds, to share our insecurities, to share all the past relationship gunk that we usually, can be helpful to talk about. But it can feel really scary. Like, oh, they might reject us if that's the other thing I'm thinking, right? Like he might think, oh, if I share this, she'll probably, or she might reject me, right? Maybe even more than what we feel at times that might be. So
Well,
that was a great question.
engaging, like, if can this person, does he have the potential to be emotionally available? And, my past relationships, the man could not open up, would not be emotionally available. His childhood conditioning was so strong. And so, yeah, I think having those things to help someone. And also, I'm in recovery. So it was in recovery that I learned the power and strength of vulnerability. Not everybody has that same experience. So I need to remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. I'm super happy that you raised your hand. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the pin. And there's a comment in the chat, Joy. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I'm finding it challenging to bring intimacy into a 47-year marriage that was buffered by some distance while raising 6 children and grandchildren. I want both of us to feel safe, growing closer to each other. What a beautiful prayer. So the first, here's the deal. If you both want that, that is possible. So that's once again the request. There you are. Do you want to go off speaker and share a little bit more about the context of this, or is it Ina or Ina?
Ina.
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 Wow, God bless you. 6 kids, 47 years, and you are wanting to rekindle closeness and safety at this time. And is your husband on board with that request?
No.
Oh, well, there you go. That's key.
We're talking brick wall, but I feel the softening. The great grandchildren are coming, and I can see the difference. You never liked my cats as I raised them. When I had cancer 8.5 years ago, we adopted a rescue cat. He carries his cat around like a rag doll. I see changes that I couldn't imagine in the 50 years that I've known him. I just don't know how to make him feel safe while feeling stable doing it, right? I've always been a people pleaser. All the kids, make sure everybody's happy. So this is a big shift for me, but for him as well.
Ina, it's pretty amazing. I've had the great fortune of watching my grandparents and my parents like age, right? And others, and men do soften with age. And, maybe this is ripe harvest time. It sounds like you're committed to your own inner work. You being more, I can feel it. That's going to mean so much. And just like we were talking to Kelly, like every time you feel that he's in a place that is a little more safe or soft or connected, just acknowledging it, and then you're looking at, oh, I'm not pleasing anymore. It sounds like you're working on your dynamic that's part of the relationship. So yeah, it's a powerful prayer you have. And also you can only do so much. There's 2 of you in the equation. So love that you're doing what you're doing. And just maybe at some point he might be interested in reading a book with you about relationship, or having a couple sessions with a relationship coach or mentor. I don't know, but that can go a long way to have a third party facilitate the transparency and move through and break through some of the patterns that you guys have been dancing for 47 years. That's a long time to get entrenched. Esther Perel, she talks about, like, you have your first relationship and everyone's trying to figure out who they are and evolve. But at a certain age, we're ready for our capstone, right? you happen to be with the same partner through it all. And you have all these grandkids and family matters to you. So wow, I'm celebrating that you've lived all these years with one man and that you've raised children and have grandchildren and that you're like staying open to even more and the potential of something next.
Hmm. Yeah, I can't imagine 47 years. Like, wow.
Beautiful.
That's a huge what's the word? I can't even think of the word. That's amazing.
It's an accomplishment.
There you go. Yes. I was gonna say, you need a trophy. Um seriously. Seriously. And the other thing I just want to touch on too, which Joy has said previously, we talked about previously, is like it's never too late to start asking those questions, right? And maybe he'll play with you, right? Maybe you have we used to do it, we do it differently now, but when we first were together, we would, I'd say, why don't you come with a question and I'll come with a question, right? So it's not just me because I'm a really good interviewer, right? I can, but then it can be a little intimidating. So maybe that's something you start is maybe 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock every day. We used to have like, oh, let's have a cocktail, happy hour connection time. And you ask a question and I ask a question. Now it's more like sharing about our day. So it kind of depends on where you're at, I guess. But yeah, just that we call it connection time. So whether it's a question or sharing something about your day, might help open up that and just create a little routine, a little connection routine, daily connection routine. That might be something he's open to. Yeah, never know. We don't know unless we ask, right, Joy?
Yeah, the asking is important, and the setting up containers like games or check-in weekly relationship meetings. But the wanting intimacy, what I tend to support my different clients with is like, what's the scariest thing you can think of that you want to tell your partner that you haven't told them? Because you've got to take the risk. You want him to open up to you, you open up. You take your next step. What's scary? What have you been wanting to say? What's a loving truth? And can you say it with maybe nonviolent communication and take responsibility? But how can you be more authentic? So this talk was going to be, or this podcast is somewhat about authenticity and intimacy. That's the order I see it. The more we're true and authentic, the more we just naturally become connected because we're being more transparent. So Ina, is that anything popping out for you from what Tanya and I said? I'm curious.
Yes, it just gives me a foundation. I mean, joy bubbling up that I see the potential. I mean, before I understand a brick wall, I understand the hurt, I understand the distance. I've known him since we were in high school, so
Wow.
it's a long time. It's growing up and losing parents, losing siblings along the way. It's been a long journey.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of privacy, I play bass. I checked it out on music. I did not see him do the same. I had hands to hold little children. My garden. I do not sit in my living room. My garden is my living room. I just don't feel comfortable in walls, and he feels safer in a wall, in buildings, in rooms, and I feel safer and more home out in the trees, in the garden, the flowers, the birds. So we're very different.
Yeah.
it's hard to find a key in a way. It's not that we're incompatible. It's just that we had different points of view about the children,
Hmm.
about money, all of it.
Yeah, probably all stuff you did not talk back when you got together, right? We weren't taught to talk about those things.
Not children of the 50s were not.
No, I grew up in the 90s. I wasn't taught to talk about that. So, right? I mean, yeah,
But you're
yeah,
giving us the key so that we can give it to our great grandchildren,
yeah.
and that's where it ripples out. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being brave and yeah, for asking the question and sharing with us.
Thank you.
Sending lots of blessings for your relationship. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to go ahead and remove the pin. And oh, I didn't mute you. If you could mute yourself if you haven't already. Oh, beautiful, everyone. Wow. Joy. I know that we could go on, and we'll probably be coming back together again in the future. I have a feeling. I don't feel like this is done for us. But
Yeah, there's
yeah,
always more. There can be more, but this was rich. Thank you.
very, very. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom. And yeah, here we are being vulnerable and sharing from experience, I think is where it's at. And I just want to let everybody know Joy has got a beautiful gift for us. It's called the Real Us Relationship Series, and she is offering everybody a free class. And I'm going to go ahead and it's going to be in your email, but I'm going to pop this in the chat. For those of you that don't want to wait for the for the email to come out, there's a link, and then you're going to use the coupon code Evolve Guest, just like it says at checkout, to receive a free class. And Joy, can you tell us just a little bit about this series?
I'm so thrilled about this. Actually, this is me and my guy, who's a spiritual therapist and a leadership mentor, and actually taught at a master's degree level spiritual psychology for 16 years. So he's quite a wise soul himself. But we feel like so much of why we're brought together is to support people in having healthy relationships. So this year, 2025, we've made the commitment to do a monthly series of workshops. They're 2 hours, and we have it the second Monday of every month on Zoom online. And then we're also doing it in person in Ashland, Oregon, and in person in Mount Shasta, California, if anyone lives near us. And looking forward to these kind of intimate shares. They're theme-based. And so this one in January is about courageous conversations, and we have some about embodied vitality and bringing romance and rekindling the spark and soulful romance, and yeah, different fun topics. And we just look forward to people joining us. So free pass, basically complimentary. Join us. We'd love to have you.
I'm going to have to pick through and see which one I want to come to. I was looking at the topics, but yes, I love that. And I'm just like, oh, maybe my guy will come with me.
Yeah.
He's not, yes, he's not, I do this for a living, so it's a little bit different. But yes, for him to come and do something like that.
Yeah, it's really nice to be having a male and a female voice. And so I do believe that's part of why Gavin and I are together. So we can, I get to rest into me and my experience in a female body.
Yeah.
He gets to rest into what it's like to be in a male body. And then what does that feel like in relationship, and how we play out those dynamics. So, yeah.
I am so excited for you guys. I think it's going to be incredible. Like really incredible. I think it's really needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we're all walking each other home. So we're learning and sharing.
Always learning and sharing, always learning and sharing. So, yes, I put that in the chat for everybody, but it will also be in the replay for those of you listening or watching the replay. It'll be below the video. And then Joy also is going to be having the Creators Circle for Visionary Women is also happening towards the end of February starting. And so I will also be putting that link for that information in the email. So you guys can, you gals and guys can check that out as well. And Joy, any last words of parting wisdom for everybody here today? I know you've already shared so much, and I'm just so grateful for your presence and your wisdom. But yeah, if there's anything just to leave us with today.
I said it a couple of times. It's just coming back to thine own self be true. Just really wishing everyone so much self-compassion and self-honesty to take next steps and be the brave, brilliant people that we are right now on the planet, that are stepping out of old conditioning and into more expansion, into more unity consciousness. And thank you for being dedicated to it. Yeah.
Thank you. And I just thought of something, Joy, which we said before we started the recording. You had picked a goddess card. So let's
I was thinking of her too.
Let's end with the goddess card.
Yeah. So Hathor, I picked one card, like, what's the theme of this? And, Hathor is the voice. And to me, the throat chakra, and especially for women on the planet right now, we're healing this. We are learning to speak with the two wings of the heart, love and truth, to vocalize our wants, our desires, our needs, our truth, our wisdom, our knowing. And the other part of Hathor that's really powerful is just to be a flute, or a hole in the flute, to be an instrument of divinity coming through us. That's to me, like, to be receptive, which means we practice receiving. And that would be another note to leave with. Practice receiving love. And then you get to be more of a conduit of love in all your relationships.
I'm so glad we're ending on that note. Speaking of the flute, I feel that that's going to be really big this year, is opening more to receiving. Because women in general, and I know there's going to be some men listening to this too, so I'm not saying, of course men can overgive too, but I think women have a really big gene. I don't know if that's what, but we tend to overgive. We tend to overgive. And it feels like this year is really about us opening up to being able to receive more. And yeah,
I have I have an interview we can put in the show notes, all about receiving and how that's so essential for men and women.
Yeah.
How that really opens us and softens us and allows us to step into a whole different, elevated way of relating. Yeah.
I have a feeling later this year we're going to be coming back together and talking about receiving. So we'll be in touch about that. But yes, because that's a big theme this year, I know, for myself and a lot of people, is that divine feminine, and that receiving piece. And I know I'm working on that big time again this year. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Joy. And again, just so grateful for all of you that you're here and you have the courage and you're doing this deeper work. And this consciousness stuff is not easy. And many of us are here because we're leaders. And so, it's not always easy to be in the lead, right? But yes, we're here together and wishing you guys an amazing transition, an easeful transition into 2025. And I hope to see you in January for the next live podcast, the guest live podcast, to be determined, still picking somebody, but the topic is going to be our passions and soul's purpose. So stay tuned. And I hope to see you guys very soon. Sending you lots of love. Mwah. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you.